Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another You Be the Behavior Consultant. I hope you're having a great new year. There I am in my ear, sounding pretty good. And very happy to have you with me here at the beginning of 2023. And yes, we are going to do a recap of 2022, but I think it's good news for you because we covered a lot of really interesting topics in 2022. And I do have new videos for you. We do have a few that we might revisit, but I also wanted to bring in some new ones to sort of inspire you a little bit. So this isn't just going to be sort of your typical review. We're also going to have some new things to inspire us. So let's go ahead and get into it. What are we doing here? This is You Be the Behavior Consultant, a live stream I try to do most Mondays, and we in fact did pretty good last year. So we're going to go over the statistics for last year as well. And this is how it works. I present a topic for discussion, and we have some questions to prompt your interaction as well, because we do like to be interactive here. And then, of course, we're going to recap everything. So this is what we're getting into this time. I like to call this our learning light bulb moments because I think we had a lot of epiphanies, or at least I did. I hope you did too. But here is what we covered. We actually did 33 different topics in 2022, and I gotta say, I think that's pretty impressive. And we also did 5 global online animal training series presentations, and we do those on Mondays as well. So when I do those on Mondays, that means we don't do a You Be the Behavior Consultant. And so what that means is we had 73% of your Mondays had a live event featuring some new topic to cover on animal training and behavior, whether it's behavior science or practical application. And all those go into the Animal Training Fundamentals online education program for you to revisit and re-explore and get back into if you haven't heard them before, or if you want to revisit them again. And so that's a pretty crazy, insane amount of topics that you can visit, and those keep adding on to each other year after year after year after year. And so what I thought we might revisit today is some of those favorite topics. Obviously, we're not going to go into all 33 of them because we'd be here for many, many, many hours, but I'd like to touch on a few of them and see how that might have impacted your training, if any of them are things that you've incorporated into your training now, and certainly if you have any ideas for next year or for this year, because now we're already into 2023. If you have any topics that you would like to see addressed, gosh, let me know, because I would love to include them in our talks, on our Monday talks. So I have some favorites that I've listed here out of our 33, but certainly please feel free to enter into the chat some of the things that impacted your life this year if you are inclined. I don't see any comments yet, so I might go ahead and start because I do have quite a few things here, and feel free to comment as we go along. I also have quite a few video clips that we can look at. So I'm going to start with a list of 5 that certainly had an impact for me. And again, feel free to throw up your comments in that sounds bad, throw up, but put your comments in the chat if any of these had an impact for you. But here are some things that we talked about last year. We talked about conjugate schedules of reinforcement, and we'll revisit what those are. We talked about a new view of the 5 domains. This one I thought was really important, and a really important discussion. So some of you may be familiar with the 5 domains model as a welfare assessment model, and boy, I hope we get back to that one again, to be quite honest. We talked about how the size of the food reinforcer can impact behavior, and we talked about deception in the animal kingdom. And of course, a really big one was nonlinear contingency analysis. That was a huge one that really, I think, kind of transformed a lot of people's animal training. It certainly has transformed my animal training. So maybe we'll start with the conjugate schedules of reinforcement. So if you guys recall, this one is about how the reinforcer is, here's some key points about it. The reinforcer is delivered continuously, and there's no pause in delivering it. So it kind of makes it difficult for food items to be a part of conjugate schedules of reinforcement unless they're like more like a slurry, or they can't be sort of here's one and then here's another and then here's another. It has to be so like such a steady stream. It's like there can't be any pauses in between there. And so things that work well for conjugate schedules are things like tactile stimuli, fluids. I have you can see bottled in this photo here. That's kind of my favorite bottle for delivering fluids. Visual stimuli can work. Sense, auditory stimuli. Anne's here. Nonlinear and degrees of freedom were eye-opening for Anne. Oh, so eye-opening. Absolutely. Yeah, and we did a global online animal training series presentation on that with Sean Will and Masa Nishimuta. And so that's a really great global, our goats series presentation if you guys haven't seen that one yet. And we're going to talk a little bit more about nonlinear contingency analysis here in just a bit. Some other key points about conjugate schedules of reinforcement: the dimension of the reinforcer changes with the behavioral response. And so this is how we communicate to the animal what behavior they're doing is working really well and what maybe they might want to do a little bit less of or a little bit more of. And so this means that the trainer has to be really sensitive to the body language. And what we want to keep in mind, it's not distracting the animal with the stimuli. We're not saying, don't pay attention to this, pay attention to this. We're actually saying your behavior is changing the dimension of what's happening here, how this, like this massage is becoming a little bit more when you do this behavior, or a little bit less, or you're getting more of this cool visual stimuli or less of it depending on the behavior that you're doing, or you're getting more of your favorite juice or less of your favorite juice when you do certain things. So it's really this dynamic relationship between this in this case appetitive and the animal's behavior. So the consequence increases, decreases, changes, or goes away depending on the response that the animal emits. So this is something that can be really helpful in influencing behavior that a lot of us hadn't really thought about before in our animal training. I do have a video that I shared during that presentation that I'll share now that we used in a training session at a place where I was consulting, but had no idea it was a conjugate schedule of reinforcement. We just applied it going, well, this seems like it might be helpful for us here. But now having some more information about this, which, by the way, this is something that was described by Ogden Lindsley, for those of you looking for a name to add to this. And so this is where it comes from. And let me give you a little video example of what that looks like. So here's our video example. And then when it's really, really loose, that's when you can start thinking about moving the leg. But if you, and then scratch at the same time. Scratch, 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 scratch. Lots of scratches, lots of scratches, lots of scratches. Lots of scratches, lots of scratches. Yeah. There you go. Good. There you go. I always feel, whenever I watch that video, I always feel a little bad because I feel like I shouted too much. I think in part because there was a language barrier there, and sometimes I think we fall into the habit of when when there's a language barrier, that we get louder, thinking that somehow that will help people understand us. So I always feel guilty when I watch that video. All right, so let's talk about nonlinear contingency analysis that Anne mentioned, because that is such an important topic and it impacted us so much. We did 2 live streams on that topic, but we kind of called it "Can you see the 4 quadrants?" And this is a topic I think we're going to be talking about more in 2023, or at least I know I am. I have something at the end of the presentation we'll talk about today, but this is the fancy definition that comes from the book, Nonlinear Contingency Analysis, that I've held up many times, that came out last year, that Joe Lang and colleagues wrote, that talks about, how there are so many contingencies to consider when we're looking at behavior. And I think in the past, there's been a heavy emphasis in our community to just focus on the target behavior, the antecedents, the immediate antecedents, and then the immediate outcome. But what has really been around for quite a while, we've learned from Joe Lang and basically from his mentor Israel Golddiamond, is that there's all these contingencies that are really impacting a single behavior that we really have kind of been taught to not pay attention to very much. But they're so important to the behavior, and they could be occurring at the exact moment that we're looking at the behavior. They could be they could have occurred prior to what we're looking at in that moment. They could have to do with ethology. They could have to do with what the animal may be missing out on. There's so many things. So there is so much to consider when we're looking at nonlinear contingency analysis, and so this one is pretty life changing, I think, for a lot of people that came to our live streams and are part of animaltrainingfundamentals.com. You'll see it referenced in a lot of our materials, that we really have to look at all the contingencies that are impacting the behavior. And so I'm going to look at the video that kind of goes with this particular slide here, because it was really interesting when we did this live stream. A lot of people really kind of had a lot to say about this particular video, that it was kind of confusing at first, but I'm hoping now it's starting to become more clear for people. It's another donkey one. But we'll look at this donkey one, but then I have some new videos for you that I want you to look at, and we'll take a quick look at this donkey one, and then we'll look at some comments here too. So the brush is weird. That's new, huh?
You feed her.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect. Nice. Very good. Yeah, and that's nice, because then she feels comfortable checking it. Yeah, very good. Very good, yeah. Just got a little nervous. Good. That was good, taking it away before she got scared. Good. Good. Very good. Okay, so now that it's speeding up, the volume should be down, so I'll talk a little bit. But you may recall that the food is positive reinforcement for staying in that position, but the brush we saw in the beginning, the donkey was moving away from, so that lets us know that the brush was an aversive stimulus. And by bringing the brush closer and then moving it away for calm behavior, she's using the brush in a negative reinforcement procedure to reinforce calm behavior as well. So we've got a few things going on there. So we've got the positive reinforcement, we've got the negative reinforcement. Some other contingencies that could be going on is there may be different reinforcement histories with the different donkeys in the area. We also know she's intentionally brushing on the withers there, which a lot of donkeys respond to because that's where they chew on each other's withers. So that may increase the likelihood that the animal will respond to this as an appetitive. We don't know what kind of relationship, reinforcement history there is with the different people that are around there. So all those things may either increase or decrease the likelihood that the animal may hold that position and participate in the brushing. So those are just a few of the contingencies to consider. There's obviously many more. We're going to look at some more videos here too to help you think about some of these things. So here's some new videos to think about. Now, I think we looked at maybe this one pelican video in a different live stream, but it's very similar to what we just saw there with the donkey. So you're going to see a pelican that they want to train to allow them to touch its back because they want to put a telemetry transmitter on the back of the pelican. But you're going to see they can use food to positively reinforce the animal for staying in position, but the aversive is the person coming up to touch the back. So it's going to be a similar process to what you saw with the donkey. Some things that we changed, we started using a certain area of the cage as like a little chute. And so I want you to see, this is sort of the first part of the process. So I'll let you watch this video. So this is sort of the before here, where you can see the animal's like, I don't like this. So it's kind of counting on the food to keep the animal in place. So then we use this chute, even though the animal can leave. Okay, and now what I want you to see, this is what the behavior looks like now. This because I was just there in December. And then what I want you to see is this is what the animals do in between, when just hanging out. So these two, there's a little station there, and these two kind of like each other.
Yeah.
And so they're more like, hey, this is our little favorite spot, and when we're together, y'all should leave us alone while we hang out on our favorite spot.
She's really
So
trying,
I think
she?
What was really important there is you can really see how it was really important to address that negative reinforcement contingency to help them have success. It wasn't just about feeding fish and using small approximations.
Now do it better.
Very cute.
Connection with them.
Yeah.
Right.
And
And I want to give you another example with a different pelican who also showed a fear response to people. And so kind of the strategy, again, was sort of, using food to try to build a relationship. But what we did instead was give the animal distance, like we have talked about many times, where we said, okay, we need to address this negative reinforcement contingency instead of trying to use food as a way to I mean, not that food isn't a part of it, but instead of relying on food so much to build that relationship. And so you're going to see kind of the before, and then using distance to reinforce calm behavior. And then you're going to see again the end result afterwards by thinking about these other contingencies. Here so I can get Pussy in the shot. Going to the spa.
Before she was very scared.
Yes, I remember that.
She always go on the
Yeah. Great. Yes, you can for that. So I hope you can see there that by realizing, that there are these other contingencies there to address, that it opens the door to some different strategies that I think improves animal welfare tremendously. What you can see what they were working on there with that second pelican was the same behavior as you saw in the other videos there, which is teaching them to be comfortable with touch so that they can put on the telemetry transmitter. And again, she puts herself in the position very comfortably before they even come into the enclosure. And you can see just her attitude towards food was just more relaxed because, they weren't relying on the food so much to get cooperation there. So pretty cool stuff. All right. So some other comments there about things that people learned about. For me was the levels of choice and freedom and reinforcement. So again, that behavioral freedom that, if you give them more places where they can access that same more ways to use their behavior to access the reinforcer, then it gives you information about those different behaviors. Is it reinforcing for them? And applying it to recall, and also the falconry training without equipment, which was one of our goats presentations. Yeah, so that was a really good one as well from Thomas Anderson. Yes, a very good one. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, I hope you will. So let's talk about some other favorites. So we had evaluating certification programs. I think that one was a really enlightening one. Yeah, because I think, people think they're all the same, but they're so different. And so it's really worth exploring what the what they're evaluating and what you get out of it and all that kind of stuff. Demand functions, I think a lot of people don't know what those are, and so we really went into that. This is basically changing the value of the outcome depending on what the animal is doing, and how that can impact behavior. And that's been around for a long time. That's really not a new concept, but it's not something that really I think people had talked about much before. It really goes back to behavior economics. Ways to encourage people to train. This one I think a lot of people were really interested in, and so that one was quite popular. We talked a lot about ways animals respond to touch, and we've already looked at a few videos about touch already, but I have some more I think I can share with you. I think you'll find fun. And what does it mean to be evidence-based? Evidence-based is such a buzzword in animal training, but I think it's kind of gone without definition, and so we did a really in-depth live stream on what it means to be evidence-based. But I thought we'd talk a little bit about touch, and we really went into what might be the benefits of touch. It often can be the functional reinforcer. It can be what the animal wants, the actual consequence it's seeking. We saw it can be used in these conjugate schedules of reinforcement, and it can be really helpful for behaviors in which we need the animal to be really calm and relaxed. We don't want them to be all amped up. I actually was working on a toothbrushing behavior with my dog last night, in which I was really exploring how a conjugate schedule can be helpful, and also it keeps them super relaxed and calm. And so I think I'm really going to take advantage of that for toothbrushing with him. Some animals may not satiate on the reinforcer as quickly when it's touch, and there's lots of species that respond to touch, and you don't have to buy anything. It's usually available. Well, you might need to buy a back scratcher or a brush for some species, but you don't have to keep replenishing it like you do with food and some other things. But there can be risks. Some animals might get disease from us with touch, especially non-human primates. So that can be an issue. Sometimes we wear gloves with those animals. Some animals, it deposits oils from our hand onto their feathers, or it can damage the protective barrier, like on amphibians or fish. So we have to be careful about that. There might be a different way to make touch okay for them. Like I think we talked about shelling with fish, where you can dribble like pieces of shell on or gravel onto a fish. It can trigger reproductive behavior for some animals, which can be undesired. Like we know some parrots, if you touch them in certain areas, you can get reproductive behaviors and courtship responses that we may not want. And it may interfere with normal social behaviors that you may want the animals to express with other animals in the group. And sometimes we don't like the message it sends to our guests, so we have to be careful with that. And maybe that animal is supposed to be released into the wild, and that fun interaction you're having with the animal may contradict the goals for the animals in the long run. So we do have to think about that. But I do have a few videos about touch that I think might be interesting that we haven't looked at before. Well, here's just a fun one of a leopard at one of the facilities where I work with. I couldn't find the video where we actually used touch to train her, but she does really respond to like a back scratcher, and they've used that to work with her on training for touching different body parts that are useful for medical training. But you can get a nice little clip here of her interacting with a brush that they have in her enclosure for enrichment.
Have you guys ever tried Tactile with her when she's doing lineups?
I've done it a couple of times. It's not, so like in the morning sometimes,
But what it tells me when I see something like that is that touch could be a functional reinforcer, right? This could be something that the animal wants and seeks to engage with. And so when I see that, I think, whoa, can I use that as a reinforcer? So I look for things like that when I'm consulting. And the next video I want to show you was, when I was at this facility, we were really looking at how the tortoises there, some of them actually really seek touch as a reinforcer, and so we did a little experiment to kind of see how hard was it to switch between food and touch. And what was really funny is that this particular tortoise, it's almost like we were kind of coercing her to take food because she really wanted touch. But we were doing a little experiment. But I think it's kind of fun for you to watch and see this tortoise. I think she would have preferred touch, but we kind of made her go back and forth between food and touch just because we were just doing a little experiment.
This is a hard transition. She wants crutch.
Yeah. And that's okay. I was just curious if
Touch.
like if they're so in food mode, like if it's hard for that, like if one was better to start with than the other for the guest experience.
Touch.
Like, I don't want to. I want a or neck scratch.
There you go.
Oh. Such hard work.
Good. Now I'm gonna touch and I'm gonna reinforce with scratch.
Okay. Oh, scary.
Sorry. Touch.
Oh, no bitey. No bitey.
Touch. Good. Good. So she's not waiting for food. She's happy to have that reinforcer too.
Yeah.
Good. You did good. You chose the right thing to do. Just touch, not bite the tongue.
So in the next clip, what I wanted to show with touch is one thing I don't think we did talk about maybe in our touch discussion, was how touch can also be used to prompt behavior, and if you did want to switch to a different reinforcer. So so those of you that have worked with rhinos, or maybe if you haven't, for some reason, I don't know what this has to do with their ethology, but when you scratch the inside of a rhino's leg, they tend to lift their back, especially the back legs. They tend to lift their back legs. And one of the things that is an important goal for many facilities is to be able to look at the underside of their feet, and if we need to do any foot care for them. And so having that behavior of being able to look at the underside of their feet is a nice behavior goal. So scratching the inside of the leg can prompt that behavior, but then that can actually be put on cue. And so what you're going to see in this video is two different rhinos, one that's in the process of learning the behavior and one where the behavior is now on cue. And so touch where the inside of the leg is being scratched will prompt the behavior for the first clip, and then the second behavior, now that rubbing is now reduced to just touching near the foot, and that now has turned into a cue, and the animal lifts the leg, and now the reinforcer has been transitioned to a food reinforcer. So you'll kind of see how touch is used there as a prompt. So let me find that video for you. I'll let it play a couple times because it goes fast.
Good.
Good. Good. Very good, Roloff.
Good.
Good. Good. Very good, Roloff.
Okay, so some other topics. We talked about cleaning up cues. We talked about training animals with disabilities. We talked about helping animals remember or helping them to forget something. So like if we wanted them to remember a behavior they did a long time ago but haven't done it in ages, or maybe they had an aversive experience and we don't want them to remember that situation at all. This actually kind of ties in with the cleaning up cues thing, believe it or not. We also talked about training multiple animals at the same time, and our most recent one was about systematic desensitization, which I really enjoyed that one. I hope you guys did too. So let's talk a little bit about the stimulus control one. And like I said, this ties in with our other one about helping animals remember and helping animals forget. And I don't know if you guys remember, but kind of the really important message of this particular live stream was that there's so many things in the environment that the animal is paying attention to that are attached to the behavior. And I think that's what we sometimes forget. And that, you know, and that one little thing that we're trying to have the animal pay attention to, that SD, that cue, that discriminative stimulus, is something that we're asking the animal to pick out of all these different stimuli. And so in our head, we may think, oh, this is the cue when I say side, or I say sit, or I say lay down. But the animal's also paying attention to all these other things. And so, you know, if we're not really, you know, paying attention, we may not realize what it is that the animal's actually paying attention to that tells it. And so sometimes we get a little frustrated when the animal isn't focused on what we think they should be focused on. But what's really happening is they've kind of outsmarted us, so to speak. They've figured out what's the most predictable thing, right? So, you know, this is the thing that really has been most predictable, that says when I do this, it's going to pay off. And especially when we're having multiple trainers working with the animals, you know, everybody does things a little bit different. Everybody's criteria is slightly different. And so what's really often happening is the animal is learning, do the behavior this way for this particular stimulus with this particular person. So it's almost like the animal's learning a new behavior with each person that goes with this particular SD or these, you know, sets of stimuli, and so that's what I think is really fascinating about it all, because these animals are learning so many different things and figuring it out every single time with every single person. And so that to me what is so mind-blowing about it all is that they figure it out under all these different, slightly different conditions. And as good as we are at trying to keep it consistent, it's still slightly different with every single situation. So I think that's one of the things that's really important. And then if we go back to our thing about remembering or forgetting, again, remembering is about setting up all those stimuli that would help the animal remember. What were the conditions under which the animal did the behavior? Can you bring in all those stimuli again? Because that would trigger those, that would occasion the response. And if you want the animal to forget, try to remove all those stimuli that were present, and then the animal, that behavior would not be occasioned again. So that's how that's kind of connected there. So So the video that, we looked at in response to the cleaning up the cues had to do with a rhino that his side, presenting his side when people said side was a little bit messy. It was kind of like not all the way. He didn't really, put his side all the way to the bars, and it wasn't really consistent in both directions. And it was more like if his body was a little bit closer towards the bars, one direction or the other. And what we really wanted was, like, if he was facing you head on, you could ask him to present his side and he would swing his hips all the way to the side. And so what that really means is having, first of all, create conditions in which he can do that action, and we build reinforcement history for it. And then also that really, that particular SD that you want to do or use becomes really associated with that action and really predictable compared to all the other stimuli in the environment, right? So that's kind of what we tried to set up with this particular video here.
Target. Side. Target.
So what's your criteria for side? Do you want him to touch with his side?
I think that would be no harm to touch off the bars.
Yeah. So, and I think he's had enough experience where he does really hit the side with his body that you could kind of wait and see if he'll offer it. Like if you ask him and he doesn't quite touch, just kind of wait and see if he'll offer
Target.
all the way touching before you.
Side.
And then if you want him to hang there for a little bit, you'll have to just feed him a little bit more so he doesn't start walking up and back.
So here's the speedy part. So you guys don't have to watch too many reps, but here we are basically increasing our criteria a little bit where he has to swing his hips a bit farther. So we're building that reinforcement history so that he's learning what actions are earning all the good stuff. And then by the end, what we do is we test with him, I think, having his hips really far out. And him swinging his hips all the way to the mesh, or to the fence, sorry.
Yeah, so let's see. Oh, I think you got it. I think you got it, girl. Come on, buddy. You can do it. He's trying. Nice. You got it. Good job. Good job.
All right. So that was a big deal for him to get that there. Okay, so now let's talk about training groups of animals. So, things that can impact, groups of animals doing the things that we want them to do. I think this goes back to our nonlinear contingency analysis, and it's such a big part of group behavior. And what we really see there is the costs and the benefits to participation. And we also see that separation from a group can leave individuals more vulnerable, and some individuals in a group might be less likely to get access to resources. And the behavior of animals in a group are influenced by the ethology and the phylogeny of the species. So, we see like flocking behaviors. We'll see some animals might be more likely to get access to resources. We might see some individuals form really strong pair bonds. We might see some animals that share food. So all those things are going to impact behavior of animals in groups. And of course, there's prior individual learning history. So like leaving the group might have resulted in some kind of outcome that was good or bad. Or if they tried to access a resource under a certain condition, maybe they got, beat up by another individual in the group. So all those things, are part of that nonlinear contingency analysis that we have to consider. And also facility design can impact how animals are going to participate when we're talking about group behavior. So all those things matter. And so we're always going to be doing that risk-benefit analysis to help us figure out what behavior goals are going to be most appropriate for those individuals and how we're going to minimize risk and maximize benefits for the animals. So it's really important for group behavior. And I know I've shown this video before, but it's such a favorite of mine because it really exemplifies how nonlinear contingency analysis is so important when we're trying to accomplish our goals when we're looking at group behavior. And so you may remember this sheep, but I do love this video because it's just such a great example of it. So with the sheep, she's trying to get this one particular sheep, this black and white sheep, to eat from her hand. She's never eaten from her hand before, and they've got two stalls, and in the beginning of the video, the door is shut between the two stalls. And so she only has this black baby doll sheep with her and the black and white sheep. And what will happen in the video, you won't be able to see it, but the black and white sheep will actually jump through a small little opening to get into the other stall where there are some goats. And so I pretty much explain in the video what happens. So we'll watch
trap if I want to go farther with him, but then it spooks her. But I can't separate them.
That's all right.
Because they'll freak out.
But what you that first little part that I see what you're saying.
We had rearranged who they slept with because Domino was in here doing it to somebody, and then we put them in there and they didn't do it for a while, but like for a half an hour until they went out in the contact turn.
Yes.
So I don't know how long it was happening, but
So
that's not helping.
Because I think her seeing these guys over here may help increase her confidence of wanting to be in that space. And letting her have the option to go over there is just fine. Letting her have more space to get away is okay.
Okay.
We don't want her to feel that she's entrapped in too small of a space. But if she's like, well, those guys are cool with it, and he's cool with it, maybe it's okay. Maybe it's not a bad place.
She at first used that whole to escape if we would go in the stall, but now she does it as she wants to go out. And so she'll just jump through there because she knows the door's closed.
She just didn't want the carrot. Looking pretty good.
This is the most I've ever been able to even touch her face willingly.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of the other animals giving her confidence, but being out of the way so that they don't disrupt things. The fact that she can move away from you if she wants to.
So having more than just him in here is...
I think it helps. Yeah, I think it does help. Because they learn from each other. So, if she sees other animals being relaxed, and you said that, she was climbing over to get to the other ones, I think that was information that was helpful. That she wants the other ones around. She doesn't like being separated. That helps increase her comfort. Her body language looks a lot different now. She just looks more relaxed.
The trap of
So I think what's really important about that video is it takes away that question of, like, how good is your food or how small are your approximations, right? Because that really isn't the most important question, right? And Cynthia asked, how are the other sheep being kept away? Actually, there's just those two sheep and the goats. So you're asking how the other goats being kept away. So there's actually the two goats are, and actually I can maybe I'll put the video back up and I will put the sound down.
If I want to go farther with him.
There we go. So the goats are kind of behind the keeper's back. So once we opened the dividing door, See there the goats are. Is that hopefully I'm answering your question. The goats are being fed by some other people that are standing outside the enclosure. And so once we opened the door and the goats got let in, they were being fed. Yep. Okay, good. Yeah. And so once the goats came in there, and so they weren't, being pushy and trying to get the food from the person inside the enclosure, that increased her comfort level. And so now she had her goats with her, she had her baby doll sheep with her, and also the black and white sheep could go to the other enclosure if she wanted to. And I think having those was as equally important as having, some tasty food items in that space. And so I think all that are really important things for us to consider, as opposed to just, do you have good food and are your steps small enough, which I think is what traditionally most of us have been told are things that we need to do to help animals get comfortable with people. But I think when we do our nonlinear contingency analysis, all these other things become really, really important to having success. And I think what you guys see is that, as our person who was doing the training said, not only, was it successful, but this was the first time that she was successful, and we were successful in just this one, I don't know, I think we were, the video clip you're seeing here is maybe like 3 minutes, but, in total, we were probably standing there 15 or 20 minutes. But most of that time was spent, figuring out what's our strategy. So when we do this kind of nonlinear contingency analysis, we get success a whole lot faster. So instead of just thinking about, well, I need to have some good food and I need to take small baby steps. So this is the value of nonlinear contingency analysis, and I think it's really really important stuff for us to think about when we are trying to improve animal welfare. So yeah, really cool stuff. And I have, as I was watching that, I was thinking, oh, I should have brought in this other video clip that I think I only shared on social media of walking, of a goat herder walking this huge herd of goats along the coastline in Portugal. And I just kind of posted on social media as a fun thing that I saw. But again, when I did the nonlinear contingency analysis of it, it was just amazing to me, all the things that were impacting this herd of goats' behavior as they walked along the coastline with, nothing but a guy and hundreds of goats and 2 dogs that kept them all together, and the dogs really didn't do a whole lot of anything, because you would think, oh well, the dogs are keeping them all together, but it wasn't really the dogs. It was about the group behavior of the animals, the reinforcing aspects of getting to eat. The guy becomes like an SD. There were just so many layers to it. It's never just one thing. So really fascinating stuff. So anyway, again, these are just, a taste of all the things we discovered or, talked about. Just a taste, I feel like, oh my gosh, we learned so much this year. So, to kind of recap some things, I have to thank you all for sharing your Mondays with me or taking the time to enjoy the replay. I hope these discussions generated some learning light bulb moments for you. I mean, they certainly did for me. I feel like my training keeps improving. I feel like everything I learn and discuss with all of you helps me help my clients, for sure. We do some great stuff live and in person when we're on the ground and problem solving, and I get to share some of those moments with you guys in these videos. And again, I feel like our industry is just changing in great ways, right? And Soraya says, thank you for these amazing classes. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's what makes it worthwhile. And I so appreciate that you guys try these things with your animals and share with me what you've done. It's so awesome. And again, I have to thank the people that have been teaching me, so, a big shout out to, Joe Lang and Jesus Rosales Ruiz and Paul Andranis and Sean and Masa, and Anne Linehan and Jonathan Amy and the whole constructional approach crowd who have really impacted my training. So, again, thank you guys for your friendship, your support, your interest in animal behavior and training, and I can't wait to see where it takes us this year. And Cynthia says, so awesome. I have a lot of episodes of this to go back and watch, and all the year's episodes still up there. Well, so they're all in animaltrainingfundamentals.com. So let me tell you where you can find them. So we have, believe it or not, just right now we have 118 episodes of You Be the Behavior Consultants available there. And there's also 66 full other courses on animal training. And I've got a list of new ones that I'm going to be adding this year that they're either recorded and haven't been put up yet, or I'm in the process of building them and recording them. And then there's also shaping plans and mini lessons and downloads that are not even counted in that 66. So definitely, I just didn't even bother counting those because there's too many of those. So there's a whole bunch of things. So all the UB the Behavior and Consultants are organized and in animaltrainingfundamentals.com. So when they're on YouTube, they are only available for a short time, and then they go into preview mode. So there's benefits to being a member. And Anne says, thank you for making Monday the best day of the week. And Al's here. Happy New Year. Continue keeping us thinking in 2023. Happy New Year of the rabbit. Oh, I love rabbits. Kimberly says, thank you so much. I look forward to every session how I can incorporate the lessons to improve my training. Happy 2023. Awesome. I'm a member, so I'll go back and watch. Thank you so much. Well, and I also have to remind you guys that we've got this awesome goats coming up. Again, this one is really good. I've seen it before, and so Jonathan's been really generous to do this for us. This one's going to be about gaining fluency in these sort of foundation skills that help you build bigger behaviors. And I'm telling you, you're going to really enjoy this one. So as members, you get access for free. Just let me know that you want to attend, send me an email, respond to one of those emails that I send you, and we can get you there for the live so you can ask questions. And then those who are not members, you can watch a la carte, and just go to atfgoats.com for how to do that. And then if you haven't heard yet, we're also going to do one about emotional behavior. And this is something I think we're really going to be getting into even deeper in 2023, which I'm really excited about. I think this is another area that's really important. And so Anna Linehan is another amazing mentor and person in general. And so I'm really excited about this one. This one's going to be in February. So again, let me know if you're interested in this one, because I think it's going to be amazing. I've learned a lot from her, so I'm excited for this one too. And Doreen says, thank you for the great live stream and best wishes to everybody. And already, in addition to these, some events coming up in the future. So in March, I'm going to be doing a small mammal training and behavior workshop where we're going to try to get past the basics. This is sort of for people who already know some basics about training, but we're going to focus on small mammals, and that's going to be at Frank Buck Zoo. That's going to be a live workshop in person. And then my abstract for ABMA was accepted, so I will be talking about improving interventions in animal welfare with nonlinear contingency analysis, and I'm really excited about that. I have a new presentation I'm working on. And then avianbehavior.org is hosting an online conference that's going to be really focused on birds, and I'm going to do a presentation on that called When the Right Thing is Negative, Optimizing Animal Welfare by Shaping Behavior with Negative Reinforcement. And then I will be participating in the Association of Behavior Analysis International on a panel discussion about applications and implications of nonlinear contingency analysis and the constructional approach to animal behavior. So I'm really excited about that. That one will be in Denver. So for details on all of that, if you go to animaltrainingfundamentals.com, the upcoming events tab, you can find more details on that. So so that's what's on the calendar so far. I also hope to be at IASA in Helsinki in Finland, so that's in the fall. So lots of good stuff on the horizon. And And as always, we've got a citation for this particular live stream. And not to make you sad, but next week we have to take a little break for next week because other commitments. I'm so sorry, guys. But the week after that, we will be here 116, and then the week after that is our goats event with Jonathan Amy. So be sure to get on that. And again, as I mentioned, we still, for those of you that aren't members, get on it, man. I'm really proud of what we've got going here at animaltrainingfundamentals.com. Like I said, we've got so many resources for you, and as we discussed in this particular live stream, it's just a great place to learn. So I hope you'll join us. All right, there we go. We did it. It's 12 o'clock, right on time, man. So thank you again, everybody, for being here. Super excited for what is on deck for 2023. I've got like so many courses that I'm excited to bring to you. So yeah, I've got a list. I just got to make time to record them all. But they're gonna be great ones. So I hope you'll stick around and enjoy them. All right, and some more thank you and all the best in 2023 from people here. So everybody, wishing everybody a happy new year, and also from me as well. And hopefully I get to see some of you in person at an event somewhere. So I look forward to that as well. So certainly come up and say hi if you're at any of these events. All right, guys, I think that's going to do it for today. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you down the road. All right, everybody, take care. Have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.